Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And I want to wish you guys a happy Tuesday morning. I just want to kick off the day with some photos of everyone's favorite keyboardist, Chris Pittman. These are back from like 2014. And the thing I miss probably most about Chris Pittman is all his great towel waving he used to do back in the day. So let's get started with today's Guns N' Roses news. So we have a bunch of articles about Guns N' Roses from the last couple days or so. So I'm still trying to play catch up to last week's news. So there's a article that's posted, and it's more of an opinion piece regarding Guns N' Roses. So it talks about a guy's basically discovery of the music that really changed him. And of course, he talks about a moment that changed me, the power chord that ended my childhood sadness. And he talks about how the power chord that Slash plays like at the 1 minute and 19-second mark of Civil War, sort of where the song goes from like slow to heavy, changed him. And he talks all about the band and, you know, what it was like growing up and stuff. So if you guys like reading that kind of, those kind of articles, I've linked to them down below. It's a pretty short article, so you can read it fairly quickly. But I tell you what, that's probably one of my favorite moments of Civil War is like, when it goes from like slow and then it just builds up and then it just, goes into the great song that it actually is. So I've linked to the article down below. You guys can go check it out. And let's go into our next news story. So this is a pretty substantial feat that Guns N' Roses have pulled off. And it really wasn't one that they pulled off. It was more of something their record company did. And then, it's just managed to sell really well. So Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits album spends 400th week on the Billboard album charts. So according to Billboard, the album debuted and peaked at number 3 back when it was released in April of 2004. And of course, the Greatest Hits album has went on to sell almost 6 million copies in the US, and it's remained in the top 200 through late November of 2006, spending 138 consecutive weeks on the chart. And then the actual Greatest Hits album returned once again to the top 200 on December 12, 2009, where it's been frequently been on the charts ever since. And then when Guns N' Roses got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012, it skyrocketed up the charts, and it was, back on the Billboard Top 200. And what makes this feat even more interesting is that the Greatest Hits album is now one of only 7 albums in chart history to have amassed as many as 400 weeks on the chart. So the others are Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, which has 927, Johnny Mathis's Johnny's Greatest Hits, which has spent 490 weeks, the My Fair Lady original cast recording spent 480 weeks, and Bob Marley and the Wailers basically spent 471 weeks. This one kind of surprised me. Journey's Greatest Hits album has spent 462 weeks, and Metallica's self-titled Black album has spent 432 weeks. So even with Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits album amassing 5.93 million sales in the US and spending 400 weeks on the Billboard 200 album chart, it still falls shy in album sales to their debut disc Appetite for Destruction, which has been certified, of course, 18 times platinum, making it a diamond record. There's also been, of course, renewed interest in Guns N' Roses that's probably helped them, stay on the charts because of the reunion that's went on between Axl, Slash, and Duff. And, of course, you guys know that Guns are right now touring through Europe. So let me know what you guys think of the Greatest Hits album. I did a whole true story episode on the Greatest Hits album, and I've linked to it down below if you guys missed it. To me, it's not a good album. One of my friends who had never heard of Guns N' Roses before, he got the album. He's like, hey, I like Guns N' Roses. I listen to, the Greatest Hits album. And then I'm like, have you heard of Mr. Brownstone or It's So Easy or Coma or Locomotive or Estranged? He's like, what are those songs? And I'm like, yeah, you're not a real Guns N' Roses fan unless you listen to that kind of stuff. So I was going to ask him if he knew what Shadow of Your Love was, but of course I wasn't going to take it that far. Now, one thing that's really funny about the Greatest Hits album is that, a lot of the songs that are on that album are covers, Live and Let Die, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Ain't It Fun, Sympathy for the Devil, Since I Don't Have You. That's like 5 covers right there. And it's really not a good representation of the original material that Guns N' Roses, wrote. But of course, the album is called Greatest Hits, so it goes by the greatest songs of theirs that charted on, the Billboard charts. And the thing that's funny is it came out in 2004, and Axl, Slash, and Duff never wanted the album to come out because Axl, for one, felt like, it was going to overshadow Chinese Democracy, and they filed a lawsuit together. The 3 original band members filed a lawsuit together to stop its release. And the courts ruled against them and said, Axl owes the record company this Chinese Democracy by a certain date. He hasn't delivered. At least that's the way I understood it. And the album was actually released. And there was rumors for the longest time about a second Greatest Hits album actually being released because of how good the actual first one did. So if you guys want to see all those facts and hear more about it, go check out my true story down below. There's even some cool stuff about some of the promos they did for the album back in 2004 that maybe you hadn't seen, especially if you didn't live in Europe. So let's go on to our final news story of the day. So we've got some Melissa Reese news. So Melissa Reese has been a very busy person, you know, working with Guns N' Roses. She's also doing a bunch of video game soundtracks. She's written for other artists. She's worked with other artists, and then she's also doing, movie soundtracks as well. So Michelle Rodriguez is going to be in this new movie called The Assignment, and the Film Music Reporter said the original song was actually written by Melissa Reese. So the movie's basically an action movie, as you guys can tell. It's about basically taking revenge. So according to Google, it's after being double-crossed, a hitman becomes a hit woman, Michelle Rodriguez, with the help of a rogue surgeon who's played by Sigourney Weaver, accompanied by a nurse named Johnny. She sets out for revenge. So it's directed by Walter Hill, and the music has been composed by a number of other people too. Rainey Shockney is also listed, and the movie's gotten some okay reviews. Actually, it's mostly poor reviews. It's got 4.5 from IMDb. It's 31% from Rotten Tomatoes and 34% from Metacritic. Now, according to New York Times, they said a revenge plot is set in motion after a hitman undergoes forced gender reassignment surgery. The film is not overly transphobic, but its tricky subject doesn't have much of a payoff. And Common Sense Media said, on the one hand, the thriller starts out with a ludicrous, wrong-headed idea, but on the other hand, as directed by Walter Hill, it's so skillful and pulpy that it might become a cult classic. So I'm not really interested too much in the movie, but maybe you guys can let me know if you're interested in watching it. The last thing I wanted to show you guys were just some photos from the Lisbon, Portugal show, which I didn't have a chance to upload as part of the concert recap, but it looked like a really great show. A lot of people messaged me and said, hey, we had a great time in Lisbon, and it just made me miss the city even more. So it looked like it was a pretty good-sized gig. I think somebody mentioned 40 to 50,000 people showed up. And there's actually a review from my GNR's forum where they talked a bit about the show in a little more detail. And they said like the organization of the concert could have been better in terms of like getting food and stuff. But for the most part, the show was great. It was funny when we were in Lisbon back in April, we were taking the train station. We went to the train station to go to Sintra, which is like about 25 miles west of Lisbon. There's all these cool castles and stuff. Really recommend it if you guys are going, but it's super busy. And we were in the train station waiting in line, and I looked behind one of those glass display cases, and sure enough, there's like an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and it's just like an advertisement for Guns N' Roses concert on June 2nd. And I'm like, man, that's like really obscure. It's like a little 8.5 by 11 sheet advertising the GNR show. I'm like, I would have thought they would have had like a bigger advertisement. But it was funny, wherever we went in like Lisbon, or even anywhere we were in Spain, there's like tons of people wearing Guns N' Roses shirts. So there's a lot of love for the band in Europe, and it's really nice to see that. And I did, when I was walking to work the other day, I was walking through the train station, and sure enough, I saw a dude wearing a Night Train shirt, like the shirt you get if you're a Night Train member. And I thought, oh, it's kind of funny because I always think I'm like the only Guns N' Roses fan in like the city I live in terms of like the person who would know what the Night Train Club is and stuff. But I guess there's another fan. I never had a chance to talk to him, but I thought maybe I should have struck up a conversation with the guy. And then when my wife and I were in Vegas last Christmas, we were waiting to get into Gordon Ramsay's burger restaurant. Because I don't know if you guys know, I love to cook, and I'm a huge Gordon Ramsay fan. So I wanted to see if his restaurant was that good. So there was this couple in front of us, and I think they were from Dallas. And this guy was wearing a Guns N' Roses like shirt that he got from the Dallas 2016 show. And I just started talking to him a bit, and I said, oh, I'm going to see Guns this August. And he said, yeah, the show was pretty good in Dallas. But he's like, oh, you could tell that Axl and Slash, they're only doing it for the money. At least that's what he told me. That's what his interpretation was. But he said overall it was a pretty good show. But he thought that Axl's voice wasn't as good as it used to be. But I thought I'd share that story with you guys since it's sort of relevant to the video. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed the contents of this video. And be sure to subscribe if you love Guns N' Roses as much as I do. And you can follow me on social media. The links to my social media channels are down below. And the last thing I want to let you guys know is that I did a cool video if you guys haven't seen it. It's all about November Rain and where the video was filmed. So if you guys have ever wondered where like the live action shots were shown, I go over that. I show you where you can actually go see it in real life. I talk about where the actual reception is held, where it starts raining, and then some people thought the rain killed everybody, or it killed Stephanie Seymour, and it ruined the whole wedding for everybody. And then I even talk about where the church was, the church scenes were shot, like where Slash is doing a solo, as well as where the actual wedding ceremony takes place. And it's kind of cool that venue where the reception takes place, you can actually rent it out for your own, corporate events or for your own wedding. But I'm sure it's not cheap to do so. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys have a good one. And we'll see you with another Chris Pittman post probably tomorrow morning. Take care.